Evening, all my friends out there in TV land. This is Senior Issues, etc. I'm your host, Vita Verdon. I've got a very interesting show for you today. Hurry up, go get your coffee, your 7-Up, your Dr. Pepper. Come and sit down, bring a paper and pencil with you because you'll want to take some notes. Now, what I have for you today is Dr. Daniel Hubbard. He's been on the show before, and this is because I listen to your requests and I read all your emails. You have requested this, so this one's for you. He is the Vice President of the Genealogical Society of Lake County, Illinois, and he's got a lot of information that I know that you're going to want to take down, because I have had so many requests, and I have had calls, I've had emails, I had even letters in my post office box asking for more information on this subject, because it's hit a surge since the internet has come in at such a high that it's really hit a surge. So Dr. Hubbard, it's so good to have you back on the show. You're back by popular demand.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So first of all, because people may not have seen you before, and we'd like to get really up close and personal.
Okay.
So why don't you give us the lowdown of who you are, where you're born. We want to know everything about you, in other words.
Right, okay. Well, I grew up in Libertyville. I went to Libertyville High School, then went to University of Illinois for undergraduate and the University of Michigan for grad school. I wasn't in Ann Arbor for very long. They shipped me off to Europe to get my physics degree. And I was living in France, working in Switzerland for 8 years. During those 8 years, I met my wife, who was also a physics student. And we ended up moving to Sweden, which is where she's from. So I lived there for 11 years before moving back in 2007.
And so you are married and you have children?
I am married and I have children.
Well, I want you to look right into that camera there. And I don't want you to give them this look. I want you to give them a great, how many children do you have?
3. All
right, so you have to give a good kiss for your wife and a good kiss for every child.
Okay, see if I can warm up a bit. Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I know they always like to see that. And now the first thing that we'd like to know is, maybe you could put it down in language that we can all understand. What is genealogy?
Right. Well, the bare bones definition is it's finding out who your ancestors were, who was your father, his mother, your mother, her mother, and so on down the line. But that gets sort of bare bones. It's only one side of the coin, because even if that's all you're interested in, pretty soon you need to look at 4 or 5 different records just to prove one thing. And then you get all this other information, and that's interesting. And so it starts to expand into more what people call family history, really connecting your family with history, figuring out what people's occupations were.
And the era they came out of.
The era they come out of.
And what was the culture like?
Exactly. There's a lot of cultural history. And you even need to learn some of that just to figure out who you're descended from, because eventually you'll get multiple possibilities, and how do you rule them out? Well, there's a lot of records, but there's also a lot of cultural history. It could turn out in one culture, it's very, very unlikely for one of your possibilities to be correct. And so you end up learning all of that stuff too.
So it's so expansive, even asking for a simple definition isn't simple.
No, it's not. And that's one of the things I like about it, is that
it's ever increasing.
It's ever increasing, and if something interests you, you can always bring it in and tie it in, discover who your family was in the past, not just their names, but everything about them. It's amazing what is preserved about people who, you have to put this in quotes, nobodies, because nobody was a nobody. Everybody is somebody. And it's amazing what was preserved about those people who weren't president or a general or whatever.
Well, I know years way back, let's say in the 60s, genealogy was kind of like in the dark ages, and you had to go to the Mormon church if you wanted to learn anything about it, you know. But as we were talking before the show, you said it hit a surge in the 70s. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, there was a bit of a surge in the 70s thanks to the miniseries Roots, which I certainly...
That's interesting because of one little miniseries, it sort of implanted, it hit a nerve in all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Exactly, yeah. I was already interested in genealogy at that point, so I was glued to the television during that. And then there was another surge that came in basically with the internet, because people
I'd say with the internet, that has opened up the world to us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in the past, in the present, and the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The internet has made it so much easier to get started and to do quite a bit, but there's still a vast amount of information that isn't on the internet and may never be. But just having, being able to sit at home and do in your pajamas at whatever strange hours you.
And what did you say before? You used to have to go crank it out.
Well, like you were saying, you would have to go to a facility of the Mormon Church, a family history center, or state or national archives. You'd get out the microfilm and you'd start turning, and things weren't indexed, or you'd have to look it up in a book and go back to the
microfilm. Because I've had that, the microfiche. It's faulty, and there's all kinds of cracks in it, and a lot of it you can't even decode.
Yeah, yeah. Just being able to read some of that microfilm is quite a skill to develop. But by getting a lot of that stuff online, it's made it so much easier to get started and lower the threshold.
Online, it's like, well, we've come a long way, baby.
Oh yeah.
That's what we have.
Exactly, exactly.
So then when did you really become an integral part of the society, of the Genealogical Society?
I joined when I first moved back in 2007, and then it wasn't long after that I was elected vice president. And I've been doing that ever since.
And so maybe you can tell our audience what your function is. And first of all, a little bit about the society and what the society's function is.
Okay. Well, we have a few somewhat separate things that we do. We have a reading room in Vernon Hills. Well,
first of all, what is the reading room? Everybody doesn't know that.
Sure, exactly. It's sort of like a library, except you can't check anything out.
So you have to read it there.
You have to read it there.
And it's all on the subject matter of genealogy.
Exactly. Okay. Everything from how-to books to tracing your roots in Italy to books on landowners in New York to very specific local information about Northeast Illinois, especially about Lake County, of course. We have well over 100,000 Lake County obituaries on file. We've got Lake County probate records, the originals. We've got copies of birth records from around the turn of the last century, so 1900. So
you have a lot in containment, a lot of information to help a person get started, right?
Exactly, to get started and to continue.
And then do you have meetings?
We have regular meetings.
And is there a meeting hall or something?
Yeah, that is in Mundelein. We meet the second Tuesday of every month in in the Mundelein Park District's center. That's at 1401 Midlothian. And we have an evening we socialize for a while, and then we have a speaker talk about some topic of interest to genealogists.
Well, what is the function of your society?
Well, it's to make
spread the word.
Spread the word, to spread how to do it type of knowledge, and to help people with their research. We also have a lot of projects that we do, indexing cemeteries. Right now we're working on funeral home records. And so we have volunteers who go through those records, type them up in a much easier to read format than the chicken scratch they sometimes are in, and get them all nice and indexed.
So you've really experienced a growth in a new direction.
Oh yeah, yeah. Being able to put stuff up on the internet, being able to publish, work on a book on the computer and get it out there. It's yeah, we've.
Well, what is the current project? You said you have projects that you're working on.
Yeah, the big one right now is indexing Lake County funeral home records.
And that will help you in what way?
Well, if you need to know when someone died, funeral home records can be very good, of course. They can contain who gave the information.
Oh, so you'll have in contact all of like, oh, I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Gong, the light bulb went up. Yeah.
So those records can really help.
And that's a big job.
Oh, it's a big job. Sure. So new members and volunteers out of those new members are always welcome.
Well, that's what you're really looking for is volunteers. Is there a number they could call?
Yeah, the number for the reading room, which is, it's a good idea to call that even if you're not going to volunteer, just to do research, is 847-918-3584.
And say that number again.
That is 847-918-3584.
All right, now what that number is for is if you're interested in volunteering or if you want information about the society, if you want to join the society. And we're going to come back and get much more, but right now where I usually have my pearls of wisdom, I got a nice treat for you all today. What we have is a whole class from the Oak Grove Elementary School in Green Oaks, Illinois. This is a part of their curriculum. So they've honored us today by coming to audit our show. And I want you to meet them because this is our television future. These are our stars of tomorrow. These are our producers of tomorrow. Here's our directors. Come on up here. Let's have the first group. And they come here to see the working of it. And they're 13 and we're God knows how old we are because we're looking to live forever, but the majority of us are over 80. Now, tell them your name nice and clear.
I'm Zach. I'm Abdullah.
Sahaj.
I'm Jacob.
Eli.
Okay, let's have the next group. Come on, ladies, wet your lips, give them a great big smile, hold your back straight, and let's give them that razzmatazz. Okay, what is your name?
I'm Ibtihaj. I'm Sierra. I'm Colette.
Kelsey.
Kathleen.
Okay, let's have the next group come up here. And they've come here to see how we're doing the show because they're interested. If we could do it, they could do it too. And believe me, at the rate they're going with all the technology they know, they'll probably do a better job. Okay, let's have your names.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Nick.
I'm Peter.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Okay, and let's have the last group come up here. And we're so happy they came, and they came with their teacher, and their teacher, let's have your name.
I'm Andrew.
I'm John Maynard.
And maybe tell them what school they're from.
Oak Grove School in Green Oaks.
And also, what are they studying in school? If you could just tell us a few little things.
They're learning about news broadcasting.
Oh, good. And do you think they're learning something here today?
I sure hope so. This is exactly what we're going to be doing in class.
Oh, we're just so happy to have them here today, and we're going to give John a copy of the tape so they can all see themselves, and when it goes online, they'll be able to see themselves. Okay, watch it. That's it. All right, now you can see this. This show will go up. All our shows are online. We have maybe 30 or 35 or maybe even 40 shows online. You can go to patch.com, Libertyville, and then just press in senior issues, and you can see all the shows are by subject matter. This show today will probably be online in, it takes about 3 or 4 weeks before it'll go up online, but once it's online forever. We also have a website. It's srissues.org, and I also have an email if you want to email. If you want to be on the show, if you want a subject matter on the show, and we'll discuss it, it's small casing Vita Verdon at netzero.net. So we're just so happy that this class could come today and see how we go about things. Now we're going to get back to genealogy. All right, you just gave a little pitch for volunteers. Right. Now I'd like you to go into a little bit in depth what membership includes and how one goes about that.
Membership is pretty simple. You come to a meeting and get a membership form, or you go to the reading room and get a membership form, fill it in, and it's a small fee, and then you're a member for a year. And
now how often are the meetings? I want this clear.
Okay, we have meetings once a month on the second Tuesday from January to October. And then we have a special full-day meeting in November, a workshop where we bring in speakers from farther away and really spend the day, have a lunch together, and learn some genealogy.
Oh, so now, do you have a website?
Yes. The web address is a bit complicated, so what I actually recommend people to do is to just Google Lake County Genealogical Society.
Okay.
And that should be the top hit that you get.
Okay, so say that again. All they have to do is just Google Lake County Genealogical Society.
Exactly.
And then your website will come up?
Yep, that should be the #1 thing in Google when you...
So now what is next on the agenda? Do you have some cases or something you'd like to talk to us about?
Well, let's see. Personally, I've been doing some interesting research lately. I was asked to investigate somebody's family story about a distant relative, not an ancestor, just a distant relative who may have gone to prison for manslaughter at some level. Well,
how do you find out something like that?
Well, first you get the correct name because
that's it. You got to get the name straight.
Because family stories, it's a bit like playing telephone.
Right.
Someone tells somebody who gets it a bit wrong, who tells somebody else who doesn't remember quite right, and eventually it's not quite what it sounded like. So first thing you have to do is get the correct name, and then get the correct time period, because those two things were a bit off. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't a simple case of manslaughter. It was premeditated murder involved.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was in the newspapers and everything.
So you actually got newspaper articles about it out of the archives.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yep. Now, of course, sometimes...
Was the family devastated?
No, it's...
They knew there was something.
There was something, yeah.
And they didn't understand. But that's good, because it clears it up. Because, you know, you just don't want to live on rumors.
No.
They come down from generation to generation.
No, exactly.
So how far did you get with it?
I'm still working on it.
Oh.
So I've just gotten the first hints. I've got more microfilm coming.
Now, have you done this whole genealogical background on your family?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's how I got started, was working on my family.
And how long, is that a life's work? That always ongoing?
Oh yeah, it's always ongoing, because as I said, there's so many details you can pull in, and of course you're also always hoping to go back one more generation. So I know the first ancestor I know of in North America came in 1618, and I'm probably not going to get back much farther than that. At least in North America.
Records.
Well, Jamestown was founded 1607, so you can't get much farther back if you're of English ancestry anyway. But then, depending on what country your ancestors came from, you can go back even farther. So I know something about my English ancestors into the 1500s.
Well, now, certain countries have probably better records than other. I think England has kept fairly good records, but I don't know about South American countries if they've kept any kind of decent records.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things. One is the culture. Was it a record-keeping culture? Some were, some weren't. And also the history of the place. They could keep very good records, but if there was a war, they may all be gone. So, or I shouldn't say all be gone, it's never quite that bad, but it can be much more difficult. Ireland is a classic example of a place that's difficult because of all the fighting that happened there. A lot of things were destroyed in Ireland. You can still get back with your Irish ancestry.
Because of fires or because of wars? Or
yeah.
What is the reason for it?
Archives burned during insurrections. Lots of things are missing for Ireland, and the same is going to be true for Germany for obvious reasons. There are a lot of things that are missing. A lot of things are still there too. It's never completely hopeless. But
now, is your society hooked up with any other societies, or do you have reciprocity or anything?
Well, there are a lot of county societies across the country, and then they're usually connected with the state society. And there's also a big group called the Federation of Genealogical Societies.
That's the whole country?
That's national, yeah.
So are you connected to that?
Yeah, we are.
So now the different count, well, each one, what I'm trying to get at, each one is independent.
Oh,
though.
yeah, yeah.
You're independent. You're not under a higher.
No, no, exactly. I mean, you belong to association, so you can cooperate, but each society is independent. Yeah.
And so this one that you're working on currently with the murder, this is a family. Are they working on it too, or are you just working?
It's just me, yeah, working on it.
You're just working on it.
I mean, of course, I have questions to ask and, old papers to go through of theirs, but it's just me.
Now, your doctor background is in physics, right?
Yes, particle physics.
And your wife also, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And do you still do that too, or is this genealogical full-time?
Genealogy is full-time every day, the whole week through, yeah.
Sometimes you feel just blitzed out that it extends so far. That's what I feel sometimes going online, It's just so, I'm overwhelmed.
Well, it's a big organizational task, certainly. I mean, you have to have organizational skills that perhaps grow with you as you do your research, because it can be overwhelming. But when you first start out, if you think about being organized from the very beginning, you've done yourself a huge favor.
Well, what do you mean by organized?
Well, keep track of where you find things. That's very important, because everyone needs to
forget.
go. Yeah, well, it's not even just forgetting. Sometimes you save what you think is important. And then it turns out that you really should have read the page before to get the full context. Oh, where did I find this? You don't want to have that happen to you. You want to know exactly where you got it.
So this is a good tip.
Yes.
For somebody starting out, start out with really clear, simple records.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Keep track of where you find things. And also once
would that be a journal? Okay, let's say somebody is, say I don't have any knowledge of anything and I want to get started. So I first should start reading a little bit about it.
Read how to do it, certainly.
How to do it.
Right. And
you have to have a little bit information of how to go online.
Yeah. I mean, there's no requirement that you need to, but it certainly makes life easier to be able to go online. I mean, you can still do it the old-fashioned way, and you will eventually have to, because there's just so much that isn't online. But
in tracking. So first, okay, so number one, you should get yourself organized and start reading. Number two, should you get yourself a journal or some sort of a record system?
Exactly. System is a great word to use.
System in which to follow, right?
Right, because you want to keep nice, clear records of what you've done, even what you've done that didn't work, because you don't want to do the same thing all over again. So that's something that a lot of people forget. Failures can be important clues even, because if you can't find a person here, maybe it's because they weren't there. It could be that you didn't find the record yet, but it could be a clue that they were really in the next county over or whatever.
Or you just say, oh, I see, genealogically, they're in a different place than you thought.
Exactly. So even if you don't find something, in a sense you found something, because you found information about them not being where you thought they were.
In one sense, it seems like it's kind of a treasure hunt you're going on.
It's a treasure hunt. It's a jigsaw puzzle. You find these things, you put them together, and see if they fit. Sometimes you learn that something—
It's a puzzle.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you learn that something that you thought fit didn't really fit. And that's always exciting too. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So you take one piece out and put another piece in, and all of a sudden you can have these eureka moments where you discover, oh, wow, all of this new stuff has opened up because I had the wrong person, and now I've got somebody else, and look at what I can find on him. So,
now, is your wife as involved as you are?
No.
No?
She's interested in what I find, but she doesn't do any genealogy herself, no.
Well, I want to ask you a question that I've asked every guest who's come onto this program. Well, where does your passion lie? Like, we've had a lot of young people here today, and, I hope they've picked up some tips from us old timers, how we're just amateurs at doing this. We're not professional, but we enjoy doing it, and it's interesting, and it keeps it going. Now, what do you get out of this? What kind of reward do you get out of this, out of doing this?
I love to connect people with their past, finding that somebody did something amazing that nobody had any idea about. The knowledge was just lost. Making that connection, that's a real thrill. I just love doing that. It helps people, get perspective on their history. It helps somehow you get this visceral connection with history that I just love. And you also,
so you enjoy making that connection.
That's the thing that I think is most exciting.
That's a gratification for
Yeah,
you. That's very interesting
exactly.
because that's part of the creative process.
Oh, definitely.
I'm always interested in creativity because I feel that creativity, doesn't age, is ageless.
Right.
And so I'm interested in the process in which people do things, because in the process, there's a power in there.
Yeah.
It's a developmental power of learning.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people think that, with any type of research, it doesn't even need to be genealogy, that it's all this, it's strict, it's logical, it's cut and dried,
And
bare
there's no
bones,
freedom.
and there's no freedom. Where actually it's a lot of logic and it's a lot of creativity. It spans the whole range.
In the logic of it all, in the organization.
There's a lot of creativity just in that.
Just in that.
And then expressing it in the end is a very creative process to really think about what these things mean. Think about your involvement in your family's involvement in history.
Well, one of the things that I think is that interests me in genealogy is to see the path that our forefathers have taken and how it hooks into the present and how it will display itself in the future. Like, are we still taking on? I think that if there's artistry in a family, I think it runs in the genes.
Oh, I listened to something recently about the Bach family. People know of Johann Sebastian Bach.
Right.
They don't realize that he was part of a long line of of composers. He wasn't the only musical genius in the family, and it went on for generation after generation.
We could go on and on. I have to have you back periodically, but you know what? When you come to the end of the line, you out there, you tie a knot and you hold on really tight. You know why? Because the best is yet to come, and what we want you to do is catch the spirit. We love you. Cut.